Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, and welcome to day 31, All Hallows Eve. Happy Halloween. Day 31 of my 31 Days of Halloween Horror 2024. And we're going to take a look at the last movie for this particular series, obviously being Halloween. Hope everybody's having a good Halloween so far. I got my Halloween shirt here, 1978 Haddonfield, Illinois, that I'm wearing. So the movie we're going to take a look at today is one that I purposely saved for this date, for the end of the month. It's another movie that I got on Blu-ray at a horror convention about a year ago, maybe a little bit more than a year ago. I can't remember which convention it was, but that movie is an independent kind of movie. Well, it is an independent movie, and that movie is The Barn from 2016. Take a look at that cover there. And there's the back. It has a whole bunch of special features too, which I did not watch all of. I guess it doesn't say it on the back, but yeah, let's talk about The Barn from 2016. My Happy Halloween horror movie review for October 31st. So, The Barn is a 2016 American horror film written and directed by Justin M. Seaman and starring Mitchell Mussolino, Will Stout, Lexi Drips, Cortland Woodard, Nikki Howell, Nicholas Joshua, Linnea Quigley, and Ari Lehman. The film is set on Halloween night 1989 and follows two teenage friends that end up accidentally resurrecting a deadly curse. So all Sam and Josh want to do is have fun on Halloween and raise some mischief before they graduate from high school next year. They decide to go to a concert only for a detour to result in them discovering a deserted barn. However, unbeknownst to them, the barn that they've come across has a deadly curse attached to it, and soon the teens find themselves at the mercy of three monsters: the Boogeyman, Hollow Jack, and the Candy Corn Scarecrow. So yeah, that's that's the setup and the premise. Can you tell that I liked it yet? That's kind of the setup and the premise for The Barn from 2016. As far as the cast goes, again, we have Mitchell uh, Mussolino as Sam, Will Stout as Josh, Lexi Drips as Michelle, Cortland Woodard as Chris, Nikki Howell as Nikki, Nicholas Joshua as Russell, Linnea Quigley as Mrs. Barnhart, and Ari Lehman as Dr. Rock. So that's the setup, the premise, and the cast for my all-time favorite movie now, The Barn. No, not my all-time favorite movie, but it's up there, especially for Halloween. I absolutely love this movie. I had a feeling I would when I looked at it, when I looked at the cover, when I read the back, when I read the synopsis of what this was about, and the fact that it's actually a low-budget independent movie that came to streaming. Um, yeah, I don't know. I loved everything about it. So let's just go ahead and get into The Barn from 2016. Where to begin? That's what I put in my notes for pros. I love the setting of this movie. Smaller town area having its own secret and backstory. Those are, for me, those are like, that's like horror gold right there, where you have those small, sort of out of the way back roads, not necessarily backwoods, but like off the beaten path, small town stories, like lore, stories not everybody believes in the town, but there's some weird stuff. And that's what we got here. It's just such a great template for this type of Halloween horror movie, I would say it's a slasher for the most. This is a slasher movie, a supernatural slasher, I guess would probably be the best way to describe it. Sort of a retro 80s supernatural slasher with rock music. But it really fits into the lore as well. I mean, you have a barn here. How perfect is that for a setting of a horror movie? Um, this one and Friday the 13th Part 3 are the two that come to mind now when I think of a barn and a horror movie. I'm sure there's other ones too, but I probably haven't seen them or I just don't remember. But yeah, the setting sold me right away on this movie. The movie is just dripping with two of my favorite things in the world in terms of atmosphere and aesthetic. It's dripping with the 1980s and it's dripping with Halloween decor and atmosphere. I mean, this movie has the perfect combination of both of those things for me. Um, there's so much Halloween in this movie. It's almost on par with Trick or Treat, I would say, which I'll be watching tonight, by the way, as I always do on Halloween night. The costumes, the decorations, the pumpkins, the candy. I could go on and on. It's got everything related to Halloween you could possibly think of and want. One of the best Halloween horror movies that I've ever seen, for sure. Also, the fact that it takes place in 1989 has that late 80s aesthetic. The movie absolutely nails the 80s here, from the dialogue to the clothes that they wear to the costumes they're wearing. Everything, they just nailed it. And as far as the aesthetic goes, the makers of this movie, the writers, the producers, the directors, they definitely lived through the 80s, and they definitely were big fans of Halloween. That's my big takeaway here from the in terms of the atmosphere and the aesthetic that this movie has. Yeah, that's my biggest seller there. I mean, it just has that perfect combination of Halloween 80s. And obviously I grew up during that time, so that's why it's two of my favorite things. Because Halloween was my favorite holiday as a kid growing up in the 80s. The best decade ever. Let's just be honest about it. Certainly for horror movies, and also for the time of Halloween, that time of the year, in my opinion. Um, I actually like the characters in this movie. That might be the biggest surprise here. Because the one thing when I read it about teenage characters, it's like, okay, I might have to slug my way through this, and hopefully they're not too annoying. They weren't annoying at all. I didn't find any of the characters, the side characters or the main characters, to get on my nerves, to be played or to be written over the top or ridiculously. They actually felt like real teenage characters. And that was probably the biggest surprise, and a pleasant surprise at that. Nobody got under my skin in a negative way. They're teams that I could actually get behind in terms of their motivations and what they were doing. Obviously, part of that's I could relate to them on many levels as well. Sort of their love for Halloween and sort of the nerdiness that goes along with trying to scare people and sort of the rules of Halloween. But their conversations, their dialogues felt authentic. It felt real. They had there's some backstory and some development to at least the main characters here, the two main characters. Yeah, I really like the characters in this movie. I thought that was one of the biggest pros actually. Um, let's see what's next. We got a long ways to go through the pros here. I think the look of the three villains, the three monsters, was excellent. Also very befitting of the time of the 80s as well. Not being they kind of have an 80s monster kind of look to them, but they're certainly not played, or they're not overly cheesy or silly or anything like that. They're very effective for what they are. But I absolutely love the look of all three of these characters here. Um, Especially Hollow Jack. I would say he's probably my favorite of the three, and that's just because he's got a big fucking pumpkin on his a jack o' lantern on his head that's lit up with the eyes. And oh god, I'm about to jizz my pants over this movie. I love it. I absolutely love the villains here. The kills are quite good with plenty of practical effects. In terms of blood and gore, particularly, they really don't hold back that much on them. Had a lot of fun with the kills, and you get lots of kills because they're at one point there's a Halloween festival or party taking place that these three monsters stumble across, and so there's a lot of good fodder there, or kill fodder, I should say. A lot of people getting kills in different ways, and yeah, it's the kills are great. But especially because it's practical effects that are used in terms of the kills, the gore, the blood that we see. So yeah, kudos to the kills. The movie has a simple story, but the writing is well done in terms of having a backstory. The lore that's going on in this small town. Um, our main character's Halloween trick or treat rules. It all just comes together and is very well done. I mean, this isn't one of those movies that they decided to make. Let's just see how gory we can make it set on Halloween. They actually put thought and time into the writing of this movie, and they actually came up with some inventive and creative story ideas and premises going on here. Like I said, it's simple but very effective. They really took their time and set it up very well. So kudos to them there. Um, Absolutely wonderful sound design, and especially this movie has a terrific soundtrack, terrific music throughout with great kick-ass rock music. A kick-ass rock music score that effectively works with this type of slasher story. 80s, um, fun, gory. I mean, rock and roll was perfect, and the music that they use in this movie was perfect. So I absolutely love the music here. It's one of those soundtracks that I could listen to even not watching the movie. In fact, I might look for the soundtrack for this movie. That's how good it was. Um, yeah, I just really enjoyed that part of it. The movie's extremely well paced. It doesn't waste any time getting into the story here or meeting our characters. The movie overall is about 80 or 90 minutes long, so it's in that perfect hour and a half threshold or a little bit less. But yet it gives us enough backstory and development for these characters in this lore story to make the movie hit really well and to make it as effective as it is. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. Like they get right into it. They don't. There's no filler. They don't waste time, but they still give you what they need to give you for the movie to hit home, to hit you good. So yeah, just wonderful. Great lighting used throughout the movie. Great cinematography. I like that they shot it in an 80s grindhouse kind of movie where you have the cigarette burns in the corner and stuff like that. It just again it makes you feel. There's a lot of movies that say, "Oh, this takes place in the '80s," but then you watch it. It might take place in the '80s, but you don't feel the '80s. You feel the 1980s with this movie, and that's because of their filmmaking and all the aesthetic that they have here. So, from a technical standpoint, and a low budget independent horror movie, this one does it in spades very well. It makes it much more authentic. Like we were literally taken back in time as opposed to just telling us to feel it, but not actually feeling that. As I said, like you get in a lot of movies like this. And then my final pro is if I haven't had enough. This movie is so rewatchable. It's so fun that it's definitely going to be one of my end of the October Halloween staples right there with John Carpenter's Halloween and Trick or Treat. I absolutely loved it. So yeah, so I had to come up with some cons. It wasn't easy, but I did. I would say the resurrection supernatural aspects with the creatures or villains was a bit cheesy. It has that sort of throwback, cheesy looking lightning kind of when somebody's being resurrected. It doesn't work. I don't think it's CGI, but it just doesn't look quite as good. Um, or like when characters have to go around and do some pumpkin smashing to make sure one of our villain characters, the one that I like, which is Hollow Jack, doesn't resurrect himself because he's able to do that using other pumpkins sitting around, which is just another brilliant idea. So you get some of that there, some of those bad effects, resurrection effects, supernatural effects. I thought that part could have been better. And then my only other con, which is very nitpicky, I like the character of Sam, who's our main protagonist, played by Michael Mussolino. Um, I came away from this movie liking Josh the most and liking him more than Sam, who's played by Will Stout. And I think the reason for that is he kind of had more to do in terms of the physical. He was kind of a take charge, kick ass leader, where Sam was more into the nerdy rules and things like that. He certainly played his part. I'm not saying anything negative. I like Sam, but it was really Josh I came away from as being my favorite character in this movie. And I'm not exactly sure that's what the movie wanted us to come away from. Maybe they did, but I doubt it. Where we like the best friend more than the main character of Sam here. Some of it might have been performance, although I don't think it's. I thought the acting was fine by everyone here. That's another thing about being an independent movie. I didn't feel like any of the acting was like outwardly bad. I mean, it's not Oscar worthy, but I thought all of our main characters did a good job. But again, I came away liking the best friend of Josh more than Sam. I don't know what the movie's intentions were there, but I'm guessing it wasn't that. Very small nitpick. And then, of course, I can't mention the fact that we get Leanna Quigley and Ari Lehman in this movie. Ari Lehman, if you don't know, played Jason in the original Friday the 13th movie at the end there, the Mongoloid version of Jason. Leanna Quigley, of course, it was fitting that she was in this movie that's just a complete 80s throwback because she was an 80s scream queen in every sense of the word, right there with Barbara Crampton for me. She's not in this movie very much, though, which could be another very little nitpick. Maybe like 5 minutes at the beginning of the movie. I kind of wanted to see her more. Ari Lyman sort of plays like a TV host kind of guy, and you see a little bit more of him throughout the movie. But yeah, Leanna Quigley, it would have been nice to get a couple more scenes with her. We're not supposed to like her character though, so maybe they didn't want us going away not liking Leanna Quigley too much, at least the character she plays. But like I said, I had to search hard and wide to find those cons. I absolutely love this movie. I love it as a Halloween horror movie. I love it as a slasher movie. I love it as an 80s throwback movie. I love the costumes, the design, the kills, the gore, just kind of everything about it. Like I said, it really has no cons. I'm going to give this movie a 9.5 out of 10. It's high. It's high on my Halloween horror watch list every October going forward, and I'm really glad to have this in my collection. It's a Scream Team releasing, very independent, but don't let that fool you. There's still good production value, a lot of creativity, and a lot of positive technical design aspects to this movie. So 9.5 out of 10 for The Barn, and I highly recommend it if you have not seen this. If you have seen it, go ahead and comment down below. Am I going overboard? Do you not like it as much as I do, or as much? Why not? Please like this video, hit the little notification bell, and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my upcoming reviews. Not for this series anymore because this is it. But what I have coming out in November and the rest of the year and into next year, a lot of great horror content that you don't want to miss. So if you haven't subscribed already to my channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button. But with that being said, I hope everybody's having a wonderful Halloween. Stay safe, have fun. I hope you enjoyed this 31 Days of Halloween Horror Series 2024 version. I did 9 movies that I reviewed as the 9 of the 31 that I reviewed on my channel. The other 22 were, of course, were ones that I watched and reviewed before. But with that being said, the month went fast. I had a ball. I hope you guys did too, and that you enjoyed this series. And as always, especially today, you know it, stay scared. Bye. Happy Halloween.